If you'd like to talk about your own Bigfoot encounter, or if you're looking for help from a Bigfoot investigator in your area, email me at bigfootcrossroads@gmail.com. No Sasquatch were harmed in the recording of this podcast.
This is Ryan. I live in north central Arizona, and this is my Bigfoot story.
I think there's something about the fact that there's something that happens, a click, a trigger, something in your brain where the situation goes from, hey, there's someone walking around out there, to there's something walking around out there.
Yes.
And I don't think it has anything to do with our conscious brain. I think it's something subconsciously. I don't know if it's kind of like a sixth sense or whatever you want to call it. But something in the human brain recognizes the difference between that's a person out there and that's not a person out there.
Yeah.
That's not another human, but it's walking around out there and doing things that humans can do, but animals can't.
Yes, and that kind of that's a good lead into the last experience I had with what I believe is a Sasquatch on the property I live in now. I got a nice piece of property that I could garden on. This gardening in Arizona is hard. You need water, and not a lot of places have it, so I was lucky enough to get a place close right on the water. Same river system. And so I'm, one night because I have a garden, I had to put in a huge electric fence around it to keep deer and other animals out from destroying it. And one night I went out late at night because my vegetables were getting destroyed by little bugs that come out at night. So I just went out to do a quick check because I worked the evening shift at my job. So I went out around, I think, 1-ish before I went to bed. So I went out there and I checked around, and I went to the very back corner post of where my electric fence was. And I just kind of listening to the night and just kind of listening to the river going and how beautiful and peaceful it was out there, and turn off my flashlight. And I just kind of stood there listening in the dark, because I'm kind of like sort of in town, but at the edge of town, right where this creek comes from the mountain canyon, kind of right into it. So it's a natural wildlife corridor. Everything comes through there. All the deer, skunk, javelina, raccoons, coati-mundi, mountain lion. Everything comes through there. And so I'm just and we have neighborhood deer that our neighbors feed. They shouldn't, but they do it anyway. They think they like to feed the deer. And so there's tons of deer. There's always tons of deer going through. You can always hear them kind of walking through. And the problem that I've encountered on my property is that there are some, let's just say, impoverished folk that like to poach within town limits around people's houses.
Oh man.
I don't like that, because I've heard gunshots in the night and come out and find bullet holes in my tree.
Yeah.
The that kind of behavior was cracked down upon pretty heavily, but there's still people that like to go bow hunting and stuff. And, and they like to trespass on my property because, it's just kind of a corridor there where people come and go. And so here I am standing in the night, just checked my garden. I'm just standing there, kind of just listening to the river. And I think I stood there for a few minutes, not moving, not turned my flashlight off. And then all of a sudden, I hear what sounds like a big fat guy getting up. Like some guy just rolls up to his feet, kind of clumsy. And I'm thinking, okay, here we go.
Somebody's on your property.
Right beside, on my neighbor's property. I'm right at my property line.
Mm-hmm.
I think, okay, he realizes somehow that he thinks I'm looking at him, or I know he's there. And he's coming over to apologize to me. Right? I think he's getting up. Sounds like a big fat guy getting up. Clumsily, just rolling to his feet, getting up. He's walking right over to me. Just kind of shuffling his feet. He's walking right over. So here I am waiting to hear what his story is going to be for why he's poaching my neighbor's property, laying there. And so I'm getting ready to have a tense conversation or whatever. And I'm waiting for him to come over to me. He's coming right over, walking right over to me. And turn on my flashlight to kind of, see if he has a weapon or whatever as he's coming over to see what he, just kind of get a quick look at his demeanor and stuff. Where he gets right over and he's kind of staying out of the flashlight as he's walking over to me. I'm still waiting. And he kind of stops behind this little group of trees. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? And I'm just kind of waiting for him to, and he's still walking, and he starts shuffling around. Just kind of if you take your 2 feet together and just sort of inch around and shuffle your feet together. And I'm thinking, what? And I'm trying to figure out what the heck is this guy doing? Why doesn't he just come over here?
How far away is he at this point?
35 yards or so. Getting pretty close, but there's some Johnson grass growing back there along the creek area, and it's kind of made a blind there where you can see, and he's kind of shuffling in the dry Johnson grass and by this tree, and he just keeps shuffling around. And so I'm standing there kind of puzzled, what the heck? What's going on? I just heard a guy get up, starts walking over to me, and now this. What's he doing? This is weird. So I just have my flashlight trained on him where he is, and he just keeps shuffling around. And I just can't figure out what he's doing. This is so weird. He's staying out of the light. Okay. And so I don't know. I'm trying to is this a joke? Is this a game? I don't know what this is. And so I'm kind of and he keeps trying to come over closer, but stay out of the light.
So he's trying to work his way towards you, but as you're shining the light on him, he's moving out of the range of the flashlight beam.
He's specifically picking a path to stay out of the light. And shuffling, because it seemed like he was trying to crawl almost. Because the Johnson grass was a certain height, and the tree those trees were ending right there, and there was an opening, but there was some Johnson grass in the way. Mm-hmm. Of coming right out into the open. And it seemed like he was shuffling around there behind the Johnson grass and just kind of behind the roots of this tree. It was kind of the floods had kind of washed away a lot of the mud and dirt, and there were some roots there. kind of exposed, and he was kind of like behind that. And I'm like, is this? I just started to think, could this be Sasquatch now? Because he's shuffling, and this is weird. And I'm like, is this a bear? Why would this bear just keep weirdly shuffling his feet though? He's like shuffle, 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 shuffle. Like he's doing something in the grass and stuff. He keeps shuffling around. It was like so weird. I've never seen an animal do that before like that. Or like, and it sounded like a person just got up and came over. And that was a game trail there. I forgot for the people listening. There's a game trail that goes right behind where the trees end, and there's a stone field along the river. And all the deer follow this very well-used pathway. And where it was laying down was right on this game trail, right beside it. And it got up, and I just thought it was a poacher. He was just laying there, probably had his bow ready, and he was just taking deer really easy. Because, you're standing, like I've been there, and I thought, you could almost reach out and grab some of these deer sometimes.
Yeah, especially if people have been feeding them in the area and stuff.
Yeah, they've been giving them sweet goat feed and stuff, so they're pretty prolific and pretty healthy. And there's lots of babies. And so here I am, shuffling going on, and he's trying to make his way into the clearing to kind of get around me, to go through the clearing. So I thought, okay, keep staying out of my flashlight light. I'm just going to put it down for a second. He's trying to make his way around me into the open. So I just put my flashlight down for a second, make him think that I'm not going to put it up so he can come out into the opening, and I'm just going to put the light on him real quick. So I waited until I thought he was in the clearing enough. I thought, okay, gotcha now. And then I put the flashlight up really quick. It moved so fast that I was like, wow, I didn't think anything could, it sounded pretty clumsy. I thought it was, thinking it was a clumsy dude poaching. No, that moved way too fast. Like gone, and like the second the light hit, down on the ground behind some a fallen tree.
Just instantly just dropped straight down.
Just dropped. Super agile. Like, it didn't sound agile, but when I shone the light on it, it got amazingly agile.
Huh.
More so than I, thought that it would possibly be.
Right.
And so that kind of creeped me out. I was like, okay. All right. I don't have a weapon. That's my next. I don't have a gun on me right now. Shoot. Well, I have electric fence in the way here. I don't really understand the intention of approaching me like this in the dark. That moved really faster than I could probably make it back to my house. Wow. And my dogs were there with me. And my dogs are kind of looking around. They're a little bit interested in the sound of it shuffling around. But I got to thinking that I need to know what will happen with what I'm about to do next. I know I've read about you should never do this. And let me tell you, you should never do this. Don't do it.
Do not try this at home, kids.
No, I'm serious. I thought, oh no, let's just try it. I think those people might be just playing it up or something. I don't know, because a lot of the stories I've heard of these things, and the reality of them is different. Maybe I'll just see what happens. So I picked up some rocks and some dried pieces of mud, And I started throwing it over to where it was to see if it would run away. I started throwing them around, and immediately it stopped moving, stopped shuffling around, stopped doing everything. It went all quiet, and I waited to see if anything else would happen. And I waited and waited. And then I thought, okay, well, nothing's happened, and I kind of started to get a kind of a, not so good vibe. And my dogs are really interested and went right over the fence, and were kind of looking at where it was. But then, so nothing happened. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to go back in my house. And then about 5 minutes later, both my dogs run up, and my dogs are high prey drive, will kill anything that comes into my backyard, including attack people. Very protective.
So not the Yorkies.
Not the Yorkies. A cattle dog mix and some sort of large kind of pit bull, massive mix dog, and they're not afraid. They routinely kill raccoons and animals, beavers, anything that comes in, large animals. They're not afraid of people at all. And that's kind of, a liability for me too. So I've always been very careful of that. People coming back there. And so, here both dogs come, hit the back porch doors, their glass doors, totally, completely afraid. I've never seen them scared like that before. Never seen them in terror like that. Pressed up against the door, shaking, trying to get in. Staring at me with terror in their eyes, trying to get in. And I'm thinking, oh crap, what did I do? And so I let them in. They run instantly and hide under the table. Never done that before. And so I get the flashlight, and it's kind of spooky out there now. The vibe has totally changed now. And it's, it feels like kind of, like, whoa, this is dangerous now. And I'm shining the flashlight around. I can't see anything though. But my dogs will not return outside and will not go near the door. So I thought, whoops. Yeah. Don't do that to anyone listening. Don't throw anything at them. That is not a good idea. And since then, years since then, my dogs will catch a scent in the air, and they'll become afraid, and they won't go out anymore after catching a scent in the air. Some nights, they just don't want to stay out there anymore.
Huh.
It's weird because they love being out there all night to wait and see if any animals want to try to get into my backyard or bark at them, chase them away, or if a skunk gets in. Because I have chickens, so skunks like to try to get in raccoons. So they just love to be out there waiting.
Yeah. I mean, that's their territory.
Yep.
And it's very unusual for a dog to abandon its territory like that.
I've never seen them do that before or since like that, except when they, some nights they stick their head out, catch a scent, then they don't want to go out anymore. Totally weird. When people say don't throw, if they throw something at you and you throw, it didn't throw anything at me. It was just approaching me. For what I don't know, I don't think it was coming to give me a hug or to say, hello, how are you doing?
Did you ever get a good look at it?
Just that quick flash, just right down, super fast. And it didn't sound like it would be fast. It sounded pretty clumsy.
Yeah. Was it on two legs and everything?
Yep.
Huh.
Boy, did it move quick. I thought, whoa, okay. This is different than what I thought it was going to be. I thought this was a guy poaching. I'm going to say sorry. I wasn't a poacher. and I am unarmed. And yeah, I just didn't expect that in my backyard there. I just felt, I'm in my backyard. I never think like anything like that would happen or come close like that. Kind of forgotten about what happened before years ago, and just kind of, it's nothing for me to feel worried about. I'm just going to go out and do what I need to do for my garden, and that's that. And I'm just glad there was a fence there. I don't know how much. I think it's probably more of a mental security blanket than anything. But then I went looking the following day, and I asked my neighbor, "Hey, do you mind if I go on your property to kind of look around? I was out last night, and something weird happened. I just want to kind of check around. Is that okay?" Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, sure. Go check it out." So I went to look around, and there was a dead baby deer with its guts ripped out. Everything else left intact right along the game trail there. Just like someone reached in, ripped out maybe the liver. I don't know. But that's what it did.
Could you tell if it looked like cut open or anything?
No, not really cut open, just kind of ripped open. Like someone just reached in and ripped her open.
Wow.
So I thought, that's kind of interesting. Right where it was laying down, that's where the dead baby deer was, right along. And there's kind of it's this evergreen sort of creeping bush that grows. I forget the name. And it was growing all around there, so it you could essentially kind of lay there in that and wait for them to walk by, the deer to walk by. And there was a whole bunch of fallen trees right on my side of the property, right there at the property line, where there's perfect ambush spots right there, like where you could just wait there, kind of in the trees, and just kind of reach out and grab one of these deer as they're coming by, or whatever animal, javelina, elk, or you name it, whatever wants to walk through. And a few years ago, I noticed. Because I had kind of stacked some wood back there, kind of in a line, kind of close to where my chicken coop was, kind of, just kind of clear an area for the chickens, kind of stack the wood up like there, like a barrier. And then I put my fence behind it, or like in front of it, and something took pieces of the wood and broke branches off and kind of made a little blind there, so it could hide behind all this wood and just reach out and grab a deer coming by.
Huh.
Somebody that had to have hands had to have set that up. They didn't do a very good job, so it wasn't like a person who, carefully, intelligently, very, like design-wise had, designed like a perfect thing. It was kind of crude, like they, somebody did it, but they didn't do a very good job. It just looked like, maybe something the Sasquatch mind might do. I don't know.
And some of the pieces of wood that you set back there were integrated into this blind.
Yeah. So they pulled pieces out, big pieces, and they broke off branches off a high tree point, this willow tree that kind of fallen over, but really up high, snapped it off and kind of laid it with the leaves, so if you just sat there as the deer came around, I could just sit there and reach out and grab them. Wow. Like it's that easy, because they don't like to walk across the rocky field. The deer, they like to stay where the soft ground is. So it's right on the edge of that.
Huh.
I thought that was peculiar, and because I would always think, if they ever got into a survival situation, I didn't have anything left, I could essentially just sit there and just take deer if I needed to, type thing. It'd be the perfect place to do it, because it's the only way to go up and down the river in that area without seeing houses and people. because the other side is the street where houses are and people and dogs and everything. So all the animals want to move through there. All the prey and game animals want to move through there. So it kind of makes like a perfect kill location to ambush people or animals. So I just thought that was interesting how that was arranged like that.
Yeah, and especially the idea of them hunting that close to humans.
And then I will say that also I'd be, watching TV at night or here, and I'd have my window open, kind of let the cool air in, and I remember hearing this kind of weird call, like scream, kind of like a scream, kind of like a moaning. It was so creepy, and it was upstream, kind of where there's kind of a ranch up there. Not very many houses, but I could hear it just up there at night sometimes. Around that same time, and I was like, man, that's creepy. I don't even know what that is, and it's pretty loud. I don't know. I would try to figure out what could that be. And I think I posed a question to you on the forum because I was trying to figure out what that. It was so creepy. Like there's barred owls and stuff like that, but this didn't sound like that. I was trying to find the right recording, and I just could never find the recording of what it could be. But it was just so creepy. I wish I could have recorded it. It's so weird.
Have you thought about setting out recorders at your house?
I thought I put up. I got game cameras there, and I haven't caught anything yet. But it's. I need to get some more game cameras to kind of code it. The other problem is I have them up high, so people can't steal them easily.
Yeah.
People like to come through there and up and down in the day and stuff, trespass.
Well, especially if they're poaching, they don't want to be caught on camera.
Yeah, so I just haven't really been meaning to set up some really well camouflaged cameras with because it floods back there, so I was going to use a lot of the debris that kind of gets stuck to the side of the tree and kind of hide it like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't done that. I just put it up high to see what I got, just see what happens, try it out. I've only gotten some wood knocking on one so far. I haven't gotten anything too exciting yet. And then that kind of leads into the other story. I know we wanted to.
I mean, like you said, your mind went to the same place my mind did after my first encounter. If these things are out here, what else is out here?
Yeah.
And you kind of found out that there was something else out there, it sounds like.
Yeah, I worked with a really interesting Navajo lady, Danae, and she would, we're talking, she'd tell me stories about stuff that would happen on the reservation. And, she starts talking about skinwalker, and, I'm just thinking, oh, it's probably Bigfoot. It's probably, this is just what they call it. And I'd listen to the stories, which she'd tell me, and she'd say, really kind of pretty crazy things like shape-shifting and different stuff. And she'd just say really creepy, really dangerous and really bad. And she just, when you hear stories about them, and I'm still skeptical. I'm still like, I don't know if I'm like, really, you think that that's what it is? You don't think it could be some? You're like, no. It's bad. This is bad ritualistic stuff. These are witches. These are witches and stuff. And I'm just thinking to myself, wow, you guys are pretty bored over there. You guys, I don't know. You guys have some pretty big imaginations. I don't know if I can accept that. We would have known if such things were possible. I mean, this is just too much for me. I just can't get my head around that. That doesn't make sense to me at all. And So I just thought, okay, sure. I don't know what you're seeing. You know, I thought maybe it's a coyote. They just, you know, they're scared. They just hear things. They just get superstitious. Like people have always been superstitious. I just think, you know, sometimes people, you know, just tell stories for whatever reason. You know, I just thought that's what it was. You know, and I just, like, we would have known if something like that was possible, like that, to science even. Like, we would have known. Like, that just doesn't seem logical at all. And so, yeah, fast forward years later on this piece of property, I go out one night to get, had some basil in my garden, and it was about to frost. My wife's like, hey, I'm cooking. Can you please give me the basil before it dies tonight? It's going to frost. Yep, going to go get it. So I head out and with my dogs, and it's raining. November 1st. Raining. It's dark out. Miserable. I'm out there. Got my hood up. Headed over. A flood had just came earlier in the year and destroyed everything back there, so I didn't have my garden up as much, and I had all the electric fence was down, and I just kind of was still debating whether or not, you know, in a flood zone to put it back up and put all my irrigation stuff back up. It was kind of heartbroken over that. It was a pretty big letdown when it happened, but anyway, I still had some stuff there. I had a little bit of fence up I put up, and so I went back there with my dogs. My dogs were sniffing around like they always do. I had a little pistol with me, and I go out and I just walk by my chicken coop back there, and I pull up, go over to the basil plant, pull it up, shake off the dirt off its roots, take it over, because it's going to all die anyway in the frost, so I might as well just take the whole thing. So I'm heading back, and I just get this, I don't know, sometimes, you know, you're outside, you get that feeling like you just need to look behind you, or, you know, something could be watching you, or, you know, a lot of times you don't see anything. But right there and then, as I'm walking back up the path towards my house, I get right down my back, I get I just turn around, I could not resist to look back. And I flick my flashlight, and I aim it right on top of my chicken coop. I hit eyes reflecting the light, and my dogs were just over there. And so here I am staring, and my eyes are focusing, and I'm just kind of like using the light beam to kind of look around to see what animal this is. And I'm just like, in my mind, thinking, what am I looking at here? Is this a giant horned owl? No, just because I could see the eyes reflecting the light glowing, and it's kind of adjusting itself. And I'm like, is that a mountain lion? Is that maybe a jaguar or something? Or a huge cat or something? And it's because the way it was perched, one limb out, one limb back, kind of just like in a perched, ready to pounce position.
Like on top of the chicken coop.
On top of the chicken coop, staring right at me, kind of like ready to like lunge forward type position. And it's slowly adjusting itself. In my mind, like in those seconds, my mind's kind of going, like shuffling through all the possibilities of what, I don't know what I'm looking at here.
Been there.
And as my eyes focus to see what it is, I realize it doesn't have any hair on its body. And I'm trying to, like, because I try to be logical here, like, what is this? It's got big, huge eyes, And as it starts to position itself more into the light, it looks humanoid. And I just don't know what to think. I just staring there, looking at it. It's looking at me and my dog. We're all staring at it. They're not running over to it. And we're just kind of just looking at we're all looking at each other. And it's raining and it's very cold. And I'm just thinking, like, I just took it all in. I just kept trying to figure out what I was looking at. And the weird part about its eyes is that the pupils, like you would see on a cat, where they have this part of around the retina that reflects light like a mirror. The light didn't reflect out of its pupils. The light reflected out of its irises, and its irises were perfect, like in the shape of a donut or a lifesaver.
Wow. That's creepy.
Intensely glowing out of them, but the pupils were pitch black and they did not reflect light. And so my brain is having a hard time, like, because these eyes are like nothing I've ever seen before, reflect light or anything. And so I'm like, what is this? Like, what am I looking at? I don't even know what I'm looking at here. Like, I've never seen anything like this before in my life, or pictures or legends or anything. I have no idea what this is. And I'm getting a really kind of bad, dangerous, almost like dark, really dark, bad vibe off, like starting to set in here. Like, I don't know. I didn't know what to think at the time when it was happening. I was kind of like, the fear kind of went up a little bit, but you're kind of, you're still staring at it. And so we stared at each other it didn't blink once. I had the light aimed right at its eyes. Its eyes did not blink once. It did not move or shift too much. It just adjusted itself, perched up there. And I thought maybe the rest of it was over the other behind it. My chicken coop is, 5 feet tall, kind of like a barn style little kind of tank style one. So yeah, I went in. My dogs didn't want to go, and right after, right before, what it did is, we were looking at it, and then all of a sudden it looked down to the ground, and then it just hopped down. And there's a fallen cottonwood tree, in between myself and the chicken coop. The chicken coop's kind of right beside the fallen cottonwood tree. Its roots are up in the air, and it didn't make any noise when it did that. And I just thought, well, there we go. That's enough for me. My gun feels inadequate to whatever that is. I'm headed in for the night.
How large was it?
It was definitely human size or bigger. And it didn't have any hair, though. That's the kind of thing, like, I'm like, am I seeing a Sasquatch full on here? Then I'm realizing that it doesn't have any hair on its body. And its eyes are very strange. These look very weird. I don't know what I'm looking at.
Could you see any sort of like a mouth or a nose or anything?
Not really, no. It didn't have any of that. It just had long kind of arms.
Shoulders?
Had shoulders, hands. Looked just sort of humanoid. And it's kind of like a pale greeny gray. And these big donut reflecting irises for eyes, and very creepy looking.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Cold, out in the rain, middle of the night on a chicken coop. Yeah, that would be terrifying.
And I wasn't totally terrified, but I because I was kind of like stupefied, like,
Mm-hmm.
my brain wasn't quite clicking in. But as I'm walking back to the house and I'm reflecting, like, holy crap, what the heck was that? and I realized, like, man, I wish I had a million candle watt flashlight sometimes to kind of really spotlight these things. It and the other one, because I could see quite a bit of detail, but it just feels like you need a little more juice there in the light to sort of, really illuminate.
I mean, whenever you're caught off guard like that and you're looking at something that your brain is trying to process and figure out what am I looking at, you kind of tend to get tunnel vision and focus in on one part, and you don't even really pay attention because you're not thinking like, okay, what does its mouth look like? Does it have ears? Just
Yeah.
why is there a naked guy with scary eyes on top of my chicken coop?
Yeah, there's no ears. No ears at all.
Wow.
And so I remember trying to figure out, like, what was I looking at? Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start. And so just, I just couldn't think of anything. And one day I just thought, what does a skinwalker look like? Because there's some Dene ruins here in my neighborhood. And I just started for some reason, I started to think about my coworker. And then I went looking for images, and then I saw some of the Navajo skinwalker masks. And then I went, whoa, the eyes are just the same as the mask. Whoa. Huh.
I don't know what I would do in that situation. Probably pack up my stuff and move out of state, go somewhere else. I mean,
I've never seen it since, but yeah, it was weird.
In Arizona, very much like in Oklahoma, I mean, there's a lot of Native Americans.
Yeah.
The history goes back a long ways, and yeah, skinwalkers are not something you want to even come into contact with.
Yeah, no. It looked pretty creepy. I don't know. It's kind of those things like, what does a skinwalker even look like, for one?
And I mean, because of the prior experience, talking to your coworker and everything in the area that you're in, I understand why your brain would go to skinwalker as trying to come up with an answer, to understand what you saw. But I mean, alien is coming to mind.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Thinking about it, I'm like, the heck was that? I didn't. It just was super, super weird. And when it got down, it just, when I went to touch where it was touching, and I think it grabbed a branch, like part of the root branch, it made so much noise. Even if it was damp and wet, it still made noise.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't make any noise.
Huh.
And I just had a reminder there too, from my Bigfoot encounter previous, the second time when we returned after the first time, when that one walked over to the trees where a car was to tap, and how softly it sounded in the leaves. I went back to walk on the leaves where it walked, and there was no possible way that I could reproduce how soft and quiet it walked in those leaves. No matter how I moved them, it was loud and crunchy. I don't understand how they could do that.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
I remember I've experienced it several times, and to me, it's one of the most frightening things about whatever this phenomenon is. But there was one time in particular down in Texas where we were on a road. On one side was the woods. On the opposite side was some sort of exotic game farm, like a huge, vast acreage that had like this fencing around it it was so surreal to me, because, you know, you're out in the middle of nowhere in the woods, and on one side of the road is all of a sudden you come across this fence that's like 10 feet tall with, you know, strands of razor wire on the top and like covered in some sort of like tarp like material, so you can't even like see through it. But I guess it was some sort of exotic game farm is what I was told. But the point being, we were there looking for Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. And we heard something, and I mean, it sounded like, I don't know. It sounded like something like an elephant or something coming through the woods. I mean, just, you know, debris, branches breaking, stomp, stomp, stomp. And it came right up to this cedar tree that was growing just at the side of the road. And this cedar tree was probably a good 6 feet across, extremely dense, probably about 10 feet tall. You could not see through it. But this thing walked right up to the other side of it, whatever it was, and it just stopped. And there was enough of us where we kind of spread out, and we're trying to get an angle on this thing, and we had lights and stuff, and we're trying to get to where we can shine the lights behind the tree or something. I mean, this thing is right there. Mm-hmm. And nothing. Somehow, whatever it was left the area and didn't make a single sound after just coming crashing towards us like that.
Wow.
And that time, that, like I said, it really stood out that time, but there was several other instances where same sort of thing. You hear these things come in like you're talking about, like a group of them surrounding you basically. And then eventually you realize, you know, the atmosphere has changed back to normal. Everything seems fine. The insects start up again, and there's nothing there, but you never heard anything leave. And I'm like you. I have no idea how they do that.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it's very, you know, because, you know, I think, well, if they can do it, I can do it. Let me just try, you know.
Yeah.
Just got some technique or something. I don't know. I haven't been successful yet. I'm not sure.
I mean, to my understanding, you know, a long time ago, certain, you know, Native American scouts and stuff had techniques they could use to do that, to walk quietly in the woods. I've heard different things, the way you roll your foot as you set it down, stepping a toe to heel instead of heel to toe like we normally do. But to come in crashing around like that, you know, stomp, 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 and then to be able to leave without making a sound or hardly disturbing anything at the same time. Yeah, it's mind-boggling. Definitely more questions than answers, and every time you experience something, it just opens up another branch of questions.
So from hearing what I experienced, what do you think the purpose of you know, and I thought that was a poacher, what would be the purpose of approaching me like that?
The only thing I can really think of is, I mean, you had a flashlight.
Yep.
So it was clear that you were a human and not another one of it.
Nope.
You know, assuming it was a Bigfoot. So at that point, either a distraction, which is probably the most likely scenario, or some form of intimidation to see if you could go back inside and it could finish up its deer kill. And whenever it got caught out in the open like that with the light and everything, I think that kind of shook it, and that's why you found that deer laying there.
That makes sense. I like that explanation better than what I thought. So.
I mean, but I don't know. You know, I really have no idea. The other option is a much darker option. You know.
So what about the first two experiences? What do you think was going on there, in your estimation?
You know, the wood knocking, which I've never, ever in my life heard anyone put it out there like this. And it's not my experience that wood knocking is something other than a form of long distance communication. But it almost sounds like they're trying to intimidate you guys with it.
It worked.
I mean, usually you hear stick throwing, rock throwing, bluff charges, things like that. But this is completely new information for me. I mean, to me, it kind of sounds like an intimidation thing. Like there's humans in the area. Let's mess with them, see if we can run them off, or, just people watching or something like that. Again, distraction comes to mind. Hey, look over here while the other ones are on the other side of you that you don't even notice.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird, man. It's definitely weird. It would be interesting to find out what those other people experienced that were camped next to you.
I know. I kick myself. I'm like, I should have said something.
But what are you going to do? Walk up to some complete strangers and like, hey, do you hear the Bigfoot out there?
I felt stupid. It's like at the same, like this crazy thing's happening, and then like, I don't know what to say to them. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's just like I just want to get out of there.
I mean, what do you think? What are your thoughts on it? What do you think they were doing?
The only thing I could think is try to get us out of there. But it just seemed a tad, because I could hear them breathing too.
Yeah, that's creepy. When you were talking about that one bringing that big deep breath like that, I mean, I was just sitting here thinking like, okay, well, let's say that was a person. A person doesn't have that sort of lung capacity. I wouldn't think you could hear that.
Yeah, it was a big inhale. It was no denying what was supposed to go next. So I just, I was like, okay, this is getting out of control. I just had to yell it, and hopefully that stopped it or something. I don't know. I just thought if I could just interrupt it, it would just try to give us a second to get the hell out of there.
Being in that area previously or afterwards, I mean, did you ever notice other people camping there? Is that a popular area for people to camp?
Yeah, it's kind of a dispersed sort of camp area. So sometimes people would be there, but there's more popular camping areas further up. There's a campground further up. But that's kind of like a dispersed camping area. So there's some fire rings and stuff. So throughout the year, it's a popular tourism area here. So people do come and camp and stuff and kind of explore the area.
It sounds very, very similar to an area that was my main research area whenever I was doing out in the field investigations, and the area where I had my first sighting at. Another touristy spot that was a very popular camping area. It's inside of a national park. But the area that we always frequented was back in the back, and most of the time people didn't really camp back there. They'd be up in the main part of the park, but it was our belief that the group of Bigfoot living in the area at nighttime would kind of come out and work their way through the park and just kind of walk through the campgrounds, checking out trash cans and just whatever. I think they were probably looking for, stuff left behind by humans, doing some people watching, just whatever. And it might be a similar type situation there. There is actually, come to think of it, in the campgrounds that I'm talking about, there was another researcher who had an experience where he says that he had originally heard one like dragging a stick on the ground and like just randomly like tapping trees and stuff as it got closer. And that's very similar to what you're talking about. So maybe that's what was going on. Maybe the patterned tempo that you heard that was responded to back, maybe that was them just letting them know where they were at in the camping area, or that, hey, we've got people over here at this spot. I don't know. I mean, it's all speculation. but it's a fascinating encounter.
I was going to ask you. So yeah, a lot of the stories I've heard you guys on different podcasts and stuff, talking about that one guy who was setting up a camera, and one came up from behind him and cracked his neck.
Yeah, Dallas Gilbert up in Ohio. That was a pretty interesting story. I wasn't able to confirm it personally. It was told to me by someone who spoke with his research partner at the time. And supposedly he was setting up a microphone, I think it was, that these guys were pretty old school and their microphones had cables and everything. And he was running a microphone cable, if I remember correctly. And he kind of got off by himself, away from the other guy. I guess one snuck up on him, bonked him on the head, I guess, knocked him unconscious. He came to, being carried over the shoulder of this thing, and he had a firearm on his side, a pistol, and was able to draw it from the holster and kind of put it up against the side underneath the arm of this thing and pulled the trigger, and it dropped him. And I think it ran off. The other guy may have seen him being carried off or heard the gunfire and came running, but I can tell you after that incident, Dallas was never the same.
Ultra paranoid, like just totally.
Yeah. Everything changed about his research. His whole outlook changed. Now, the story of that happening, he never told that publicly. So it was just all of a sudden a change in his demeanor. He started posting photos and stuff on the internet constantly and saying they're all over the place. Here's one here. And I mean, you get a lot of photos. There's a lot of debate over photos with, pareidolia. Is it just shadows? Is it just dark spots? But with Dallas, there was some instances where, I mean, it would just be literally a picture of a lone tree on the side of the road, and he'd be like, it's a mother and two babies. I mean, one picture he said had a dinosaur in it. And I'm not, who knows? I didn't personally see that in the photos. But previous to that, he was not posting photos like that. He was not making claims like that. It was just like a complete 180 from the type of researcher that he used to be. Yeah, weird stuff, man. And Ohio's a weird place in general, so maybe he did have pictures of dinosaurs and I just couldn't see them. I don't know.
So that's what's it called? Is the Ohio Grassman, or is that the?
Yeah, the Ohio Grassman. I don't really want to speak out of turn about anybody down there. I don't know a lot of people in Arizona, but I do know some people from the Four Corners region and on towards New Mexico and stuff. And there's just so many fascinating stories and encounters coming from the area, and just, desert squatch or whatever you want to call it. It's really amazing. Some of the stuff you hear, some of the crazy stories you hear, and you've just added stuff to the list.
Yeah, there's famous rancher family in this area, like the Sedona area, and the Bradshaws. And remember when I first kind of came into the area, or hearing about her, Mrs. Bradshaw's book, and some of the things she claimed in there, like orbs coming down the mountain, just kind of flowing over the mountain and just kind of floating down and past her ranch, and interactions with Sasquatch, like a mother Sasquatch, and all these things. And I remember at the time thinking, yeah, right, you're just trying to sell a book here. This is ridiculous. Just seems a little too over the top. But having lived here and in this area, and having seen the very impressive light anomalies that I've never seen before till coming here. I don't know. With everything I've seen now, I was pretty. I used to poo-poo a lot of what people would claim or say, and now I can't anymore. I've had to eat a lot of crow. I had to eat a lot of crow, I feel, about what I thought about what other people would claim or to see and stuff like that. And just thought, I don't know, that got to be a logical explanation for that. But no, I've seen now too many things that kind of goes outside of those boundaries to where I don't know anything anymore. I guess I'm just, I don't know, just be humble, and it is what it is, I guess. It's just a strange, strange world.
Well, you never know. Sometime in the future, hopefully, a lot of those mysterious things will have logical answers with new information that we know and have learned along the way.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you coming on and sharing your stories.
Thank you.
They have been very interesting and fascinating. I do appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And if you have experienced something of your own that you would like to share on Bigfoot Crossroads, check out the website. All the information's there. All the contact information's there. You can submit a report just like Ryan did, and you could end up on the show. And until next time, remember, there's something in the woods.